Hey everybody, I'm Joe DeGanzik, and this is Life in the Smarter Home. It's our first episode under the brand new branding. Hope you liked the new intro and the music and the graphics and all that good stuff. We're now also in full 1080p HD. When you have the ability to kind of redo everything as we've done recently with the name change, you can actually take into account resolutions and independent graphic sizes and vector and all that good stuff graphics-wise and video-wise and get up to the full speed, the full specs that people are used to. When this started as simply a project, 2 years ago, it was an experiment really, and so not a lot of not attention, but not a lot of effort in terms of putting things up to full resolution and design and so forth were put into it initially. So now we can actually do that. So that's all there. It's the first branded episode. This episode is a bit late. We've gone almost 3 weeks without putting anything out since Earth Day because we were finalizing a lot of the graphics and changing things over on the web and getting ready for the first video episode. And then, of course, I fell under the weather. So not good. It still sounds like I don't sound very good, but I'm better than I have been, but I'm like, I've got to get this out there before we get too late into the month and people start emailing saying, what are you doing? It's the Q&A episode for home automation, so let's get right to your questions. I'm changing the format a little bit of how we're doing this. It just gets to be too much to try and go all the way back to the past and trying to catch up on those questions, even though they've all been answered. So since pretty much all the questions and comments have been historically answered, we're going to take the ones, a couple of the ones from the previous month, and they'll go into this month. So all of these are from April. These are recent. So continue to send them in. We'll put the email address up at the end of the show. So James Crest commented a couple questions, and I believe it was on one of the August Smart Lock episodes. A few questions. Can you have multiple locks keyed the same? Well, yes. If you're talking about the physical key, then yes. That August doesn't affect it because the August smart lock, like many of the smart locks, installs on the inside and does not affect the deadbolt on the outside and the actual key. You don't have to change your key. I have a cottage. I think he's in the UK. I have a cottage and am wondering if I can have the boathouse and the male cottage open with one device, 2 locks, and 1 system. One device. I'm assuming really it's 2 devices because it's the 2 locks. So yes, you can control multiple August locks from one single app, and you can share access to those devices to other people with your wife if you're married or not, or other people who may live with you. So that's not a problem. Also, my cottage does not have Wi-Fi, with the result that this has to work with batteries and cellular. Can I open the lock from my phone on the road to the cottage, at my desk at the office, or in the city? Is the HomeKit necessary? If you don't have Wi-Fi, unfortunately, you're out of luck. That part I can tell you for sure. Wi-Fi is required for the August Connect or the HomeKit to work. Because HomeKit will allow you to connect the August through your Apple TV and get your Apple TV acting as the hub so you can control it remotely. With the regular August, the non-HomeKit version, there's a little accessory. It's actually sitting over there. I should have grabbed it. Called the Connect. We have a whole episode on all of this stuff that it will put links to. The Connect allows you to use the August app when you're not at home and you're not in range of the August device with Bluetooth. So if you don't have Wi-Fi, the short answer is you need Wi-Fi to access it remotely. August does not have a cellular way of doing that. And well, even if you had some sort of cell system at home to get Wi-Fi, then you would have Wi-Fi. So my advice to do a lot of smarter home automation stuff would actually be to get some sort of Wi-Fi router. If you're in an area that simply doesn't have internet access or anything, then you may be out of luck. There are still other ways of getting internet access, such as satellite internet through like a DirecTV. It's not really through DirecTV. I think it's I forget the name of it, but there are some satellite providers. There's alternative providers in various areas I know in this country, I'm not sure where you are. I think in the UK possibly. So that's pretty much the answers to those questions. Yes, your keys remain the same, and you can share access to multiple people, so multiple devices, multiple phones can access the same locks, and then one phone can access multiple locks, obviously, and vice versa. So it is pretty. It's very, very flexible. That's what the word I was looking for. Very, very flexible to use, and the August is one of the better ones that is out there. There are several others, some of them that are kind of coming along through their crowdfunding projects that are supposed to be shipping soon. Actually, we should actually do a whole smart lock episode probably this summer. But anyways, that's the answer on that. So thanks for the comment, and we'll move on. This is another comment from Daniel Maia. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, Daniel. If not, I'm sorry, man. This video is amazing. Thank you. I think this was about Philips Hue, right? Probably this was, I think, talking about the light strip. That video has gotten a tremendous amount of views. The light strip plus video, the unboxing and the initial test, that's got like I think 50,000 views, which is like amazing. So thank you to everyone who's watched that video and thumbs upped it. Is that a term? Thumbs upped it. Anyways, I have one question on the Philips Hue. Is it possible to set these Philips lights in a way that the color change happens automatically according to music or movies? The short answer is yes, and people have actually been doing this since almost the Philips Hue ecosystem was begun several years ago. This was, I think, late 2011. I'm probably sure I'm wrong on that. It's probably 2012. I think it was between 2011 and 2012. Don't quote me on that right at the second. I'm sure we've done an episode where I actually quoted that right. I just don't have it memorized. So 2 apps, actually 3 apps. I can tell you this. I can't do a demo right now. We've actually done some demos with a device that I'm going to talk about in the lighting episode. So I'll talk about that. So watch that episode for the demo. But a bulb that we reviewed, a Bluetooth smart bulb from Revigy last fall, has this kind of like music mode, and it'll change the colors kind of randomly, and that's basically what these apps are going to do too. The Hue Disco app, available on iOS and Android for $2.99, will do that. It will basically listen to your whatever you're playing. Basically, it'll listen to ambient noise. And there's another app called Ambify, I believe it's iOS only, that was supposed to actually pick up the tracks from your library and be able to actually like dynamically, listen without you actually having to like play them somewhere else and have the phone actually listen to it. But most of these apps actually use the microphone on the phone to just listen to something else that you're playing, and then it's interfacing through to the Philips Hue and making a light show. And the same thing with what's called Hue Camera on iOS and Huey on Android. Android is free. The Hue Camera app is $3.99 on iOS. This is kind of, I think it's a little hokey, but it's an app that basically opens up, uses the camera. I'm sure you can use the front or the rear facing. You probably would want to use the rear facing camera. You point it at some source. It could be a video. It could be anything that's changing some sort of color. Your TV, obviously, you want to match the Philips Hue devices to whatever this thing is that's changing colors. It could be your computer monitor. It could be any video display for that matter. And it will then look at that image and interpret it, and then send those and do some averaging basically to identify which is the primary color that's actually being displayed, and then it'll send that and translate that into color codes to send over to the Philips Hue devices. And then you can pick which devices actually respond and whatnot, and it does that in real time. I think it's hokey that no one has come up with a way to just do this dynamically. Obviously, there are some smart TVs out there that have apps, but I don't, in the search for this, I didn't see anything like a Samsung smart app for Hue that could actually do this directly, where it would take the content, take the image right off the screen and interpret it, and then change your Philips Hue lights instead of actually pointing a camera at something. To me, that just seems a little weird. But again, there's not that many devices that can be set up to do that. You would have to get something that would intercept the HDMI signal, interpret it, get the color information, send it over. So I guess maybe this is the only way. This is the easiest way to do it. It would be cool if you could play a video on your device and it would then actually read the video information and then change the color dynamically as well. But that didn't seem to be a thing either. So anyways, that's the answer. Yes, it's not a silly question. It is possible. We'll put links to those apps, and there you go. Last one for home automation from John Preto. This may be a long answer, but I'll try to keep this brief. From email. I've watched several of your YouTube videos. They are the best produced and most informative ones out there. Thank you. That's a really fantastic statement, and all I can say is the best is yet to come. What I have produced thus far over the past 2 years has been done with literally this being a part-time gig. Soon this will be largely a full-time thing, and like I said, the best is yet to come, but thank you so much for your wonderful statement on what you've seen thus far. I'm a techie and have been using home automation for decades. Very similar to myself. Seems like we're at a crossing road. HomeKit versus Google Brillo versus Samsung SmartThings. I'm heading down the HomeKit pathway. I'm just wondering if you have any advanced knowledge of any new features or upcoming HomeKit hubs that are better than what's out there now. I've reviewed the Lutron and Insteon models and they are lacking. And you're right on that. The Lutron model is missing features such as fade rate for lighting. Like, I want to go from 0 to 50% over 10 seconds instead of 5. That feature is not there. That's ludicrous. It's a Lutron product. It's ridiculous. It may be a HomeKit issue. HomeKit may not support it. Why? I don't know. Apple's had now 2 years to work on this, so get on it, Apple. Insteon, you're right. Insteon lacks a number of things as well. Their regular hub has functionality that the HomeKit hub does not, because the HomeKit specifications are so strict that some of those functions, including things like support for cameras, are absent. So HomeKit versus this versus that versus you're right, we're at a crossroads. Not Crossy Road the game, which is really fun, but home automation used to be almost simple. And I say simple because, it wasn't really simple. The simple part of home automation was the clapper, right? Clap on. Or it was the old X10 stuff. If we're talking about home automation and lighting control and device control, don't get into the whole thing of home automation means a dishwasher. Let's define this with like the theater control and lighting and devices and on-off stuff and sensors and pool pumps and whatnot. X10 days were the old days. You could barely execute things at the same time. You had to have a central controller. Or there were the super expensive systems, which still exist today, and they've been kind of brought into this new world of Google Brillo and Apple HomeKit and the Amazon Echo and all these other things that have come about in the past 5 years, almost in the past 3 years. So it used to be simple because you could say, I want to do DIY home automation, and it's like cheap, and you had X10, maybe some, there were one or two other cheapo versions of home automation, and then there were the super expensive, the Control4 and the Elan and AMX and Crestron and all the proprietary stuff from Lutron and Leviton. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, basically. So then you got into the middle of the 2000s and you had Insteon come about. Around the same time you had Z-Wave, another competing protocol, but not a company that actually produced their own devices. Insteon became like an Apple. It was their technology, it was their devices, and some other brands also could integrate technology from Insteon and make other devices that would work in that ecosystem. And the API was open, so you could have companies make hubs, ultimately, like the Revolve Hub. And then you had companies like Indigo, who make a software application, a server, that talks Insteon as well. That's what I use on the Mac that's sitting back there. That's what's running my home automation stuff. It came out before these smart hubs came to market. So again, mid-2000s, you have Z-Wave, you have Zigbee, you have Insteon come on the market. And then we kind of advance another, let's say about 6, 7, 8 years, And then we kind of get into this modern era. We've got these smart hubs, we've got smartphones, which, this stuff didn't exist since obviously the iPhone didn't exist until 2007. And everything is proliferated, and it's gotten messy because now you have extra players in the game saying the system is broken, we must fix it. And until we fix it, it's going to be a mess. And as we fix it, it's going to be even more of a mess because you have everyone hearing about all these different cool things that you should buy, and then you might buy this thing and say, well, this says it works with this other thing, but yet it actually doesn't. Or it doesn't do what you expect it to do. Again, like you buy a Lutron Casita lighting kit that has HomeKit compatibility. You think, great, I can talk to Siri and I can change my lights, but then you can't change the fade rate. You can't have that nice fade down, like if you're going into like TV or movie watching mode, like the theater or the movies or concerts or whatnot. That beautiful timed fade. You can't do it. It doesn't make sense, and it's frustrating to people. We're in a point right now that is, I'm not going to say it's like the make or break of home automation, but it's the frustrating part of home automation. Ultimately, home automation needs a standard at this point because it's gotten to be a complete mess. Aside from the older systems, and for those people who want to start with some of the legacy systems and have the programming knowledge and the time, like myself, to put together a system that makes sense for them and works really well. But if you just want to get into it kind of for fun, buy a couple of devices here and there, and rely on smart hubs or potentially completely rely on just smartphone apps, you're kind of in trouble because there's so many competing standards, and the manufacturers are out there now to sell you something that supposedly works with many different things, but even though it says it works with something else like brand X, it may only do one function of brand X's 5 functions. And they won't tell you that until you get it home and you try it, and then you'll be frustrated. It may only have one direction in terms of the capability of talking back and forth to brand X's product, instead of buying brand X from the start and having guaranteed control back and forth, or some other smart hub that could talk to brand X product bidirectionally. I could do an entire episode, and we will, on this whole issue of the modern world of home automation and the smarter home. It's really messy out there. So the challenge is we've got a potential, there's the Thread group, which is apparently working on some sort of hybrid system that could be a standard that may be adopted by, we hope, everybody at some point. And this is, Google and Nest have their hands in it, and we're waiting to see what's going on with that. There has supposed to have been progress on that over the past 6 months. We've got Google's I/O conference coming up here near the end of this month. We will obviously hear about more on Google Brillo at that point. The same thing with WWDC. I have my own complaints about HomeKit. I don't have any advanced information. Apple usually doesn't release that much to the press. We know that they do specifically, purposefully leak certain details out, but internal Apple projects, specifically software projects like HomeKit and the details of those things, they generally keep to themselves. Like the Apple Watch, when it was announced, and the same thing with the iPhone, when they were announced like 6 or 7 months ahead of shipping them, so that Apple could control the leaks of physical products. They weren't producing them at that point, and they could have a splashy intro. When they do software stuff, it's a completely splashy because they can keep it internal. I have no idea what's next for HomeKit, other than to say it's broken and it doesn't work perfectly well at this point. And there are certain things like triggers for Bluetooth-only devices that don't work, and just a handful of other things that they've got to step up their game. Otherwise, forget it. Including some sort of actual control app. And we're going to see in June. And if Apple doesn't step up their game, and if Google does, Google could win the race ultimately. Or whoever wins the race. It could be the Amazon Echo that wins it. It's tough to say, and I don't want to go into a long diatribe at this point. we will do an episode probably in June once we get a little bit more clear information. But I don't specifically have exact details or any real details, aside from talking to one vendor who made it seem that they might know that HomeKit's going to fix a number of its problems this year, which would make sense. They weren't able to share anything with me, but it sounded like they had a good idea that certain things would be fixed within HomeKit. It's a big year. It's iOS 10. It's soon to be the 10th year anniversary of the iPhone itself, so Apple needs to step up their game, fix HomeKit, and really get it out there and push it with demos and stuff in stores, and just get it out there. Anyways, I think that's it for the home automation episode. This is a long one, but again, these are more free-form episodes. We're not expecting these Q&As to get 50 billion views. If you do, then that's fantastic. Our Patreon people, who we have specifically said we will thank you every single month with a couple of mentions. So I want to mention Christian S., John S., Sean, and Jim J. have been Patreon, or either current or past Patreon contributors. Patreon is a way for you, if you wish, if you like the content that I produce here, if you like this stuff, and if you want to see more of it come out in the future, and ultimately maybe one day we could get rid of the ads. We could be completely independent. That's a long way off at this point, but Patreon's a way to directly contribute. If you want to contribute $1 a month, $5 a month, $500 a month, whatever amount is super. The old adage of, if I only had $1 for every subscriber, there's 4,000 plus subscribers at this point. If every single one of those subscribers contributed $1 a month, we would be doing really well. This would be completely independent. It would be fantastic. So not everyone's going to contribute. Many people are used to getting YouTube content for free. You're going to continue to get it for free, but there are some perks that you can get at Patreon. So there's a link on the screen, probably up there or up there. I don't remember where. I don't know where I'm going to put it. Probably up there. To go over to the Patreon site, and if you like, you can contribute something per month. If you would like to make some kind of contribution, but not on a monthly basis, there is a blue button on the right side. That would be your right side, the right side of your screen, which is probably that side. Actually, I'm sorry. It's probably that side. Whatever. Whichever side of the screen it's actually on your screen, depending on maybe if you're on the other side of the planet, it's reversed, but probably not. The support the channel button will allow you to make a one-time contribution, and if you like that, then super. I saw this the other day, and I just thought it was a little aggressive. I saw one of these pedicabs riding around, and they said this is not a hobby. So this channel is not a hobby. So this is what I am doing for a good percentage of my time, and soon it will be what I do quite a bit. So along with a couple other things to make the ends meet. But other than that, that is it for this episode, for the Q&A episode. Send in your questions at questions@smarterhomelife.com. The old email addresses still are there and will still work for a long time to come. So if somehow you're using the old email addresses, don't worry about it. They'll still get to me. The new email address is better because it's kind of routes away from all the YouTube comments and other emails and things that come in, so I can get to the questions directly. Emails are encouraged more than comments, even though the comments are good for the public view. You may want to send, if you want to leave a comment and an email, that would be great. It's just easier to kind of sort through and filter all this stuff with emails rather than comments. But anyhow, that is it, and the next episode will be the lighting Q&A episode, and I'll talk about some stuff that I referenced in this episode. So thank you, Patreon contributors. Thank you for those who have sent in their questions and comments, and we'll definitely see you next time. Get out there and automate your world. I'm Joe DeGanzik for Smarter Home Life. See you next time.